Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. November 15, 2018, in Vrindavan, India, reading from Bhagavad-Gita, Chapter 6, Jnana Yoga, Text 38. Kachinno bhava vibrastas Chinnabramiva nashyati Apratisto mahabaho Vimudho brahmanapati. Kachit, whether, na, not, ubaya, both, bibrastaha, deviated from, chinna, torn, abram, cloud, iva, like, nashyati, perishes, apratistaha, without any position, mahabaho, almighty armed Krishna, vimudaha, bewildered, brahmanaha, of transcendence, pati, on the path. Almighty armed Krishna, does not such a man who is bewildered from the path of transcendence fall away from both spiritual and material success and perish like a riven cloud with no position in any sphere? Purport by Srila Prabhupada. There are two ways to progress. Those who are materialists have no interest in transcendence. Therefore, they are more interested in material advancement by economic development or in promotion to the higher planets by appropriate work. When one takes to the path of transcendence, one has to cease all material activities and sacrifice all forms of so-called material happiness. If the aspiring transcendentalist fails, then he apparently loses both ways. In other words, he can enjoy neither material happiness nor spiritual success. He has no position. He is like a riven cloud. A cloud in the sky sometimes deviates from a small cloud and joins a big one. But if it cannot join a big one, then it is blown away by the wind and becomes a non-entity in the vast sky. The Brahmanapati is the path of transcendental realization through knowing oneself to be spiritual in essence, part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, who is manifested as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Lord Shri Krishna is the fullest manifestation of the Supreme Absolute Truth, and therefore one who is surrendered to the Supreme Person is a successful transcendentalist. To reach this goal of life through Brahman and Paramatma realization takes many, many births, bahunam janmanam mante. Therefore, the supermost path of transcendental realization is bhakti-yoga, or Krishna consciousness, the direct method. Kacha no bhaya vibratas, chinna brahm eva nashyati, apratisto mahabaho, vimudo brahmanapati. Almighty armed Krishna, does not such a man who is bewildered from the path of transcendence fall away from both spiritual and material success and perish like a riven cloud with no position in any sphere? So this is a very important question that Arjuna is asking, and of course, right now we just get the question and not the answer. For the answer, you have to stay for a few more verses. So today, instead of looking at the answer, we'll look more at the question. By the way, children are welcome. You don't have to leave. So here Prabhupada says there's two paths. One is where, in one sense you can say there's millions of paths. In one sense you could say there are as many paths as there are jivas. And even within the category of material and within the category of spiritual, there's so many paths. But these can be categorized into two main paths. One is, do you want to try to be happy in the material world, materially? And the other is, do you want to try to be happy spiritually? These are the two main questions, and we'll look in a minute at different spiritual paths, which Srila Prabhupada speaks about in this purport. But these are the two main questions. How do you want to be happy? Do you want to have a nice situation for the body and the mind? Lots of nice food, a comfortable house, enough money to buy what you want. For the mind, pleasant relationships, community, fame, a career that you enjoy, an idea that you've contributed, something of value to the world, and in the next life go to some better place, right? Some place where there's even more of the same but at a higher level. Or do you say, like Arjuna said in the beginning of Bhagavad-Gita, even if I won the battle and got opulence like the demigods in heaven, it still wouldn't be enough. So there are those, and I think it's everyone in this room or listening on the radio or internet, that we all said, no, no, that's not enough. I want something different. Right? The people who are rich and famous and powerful and beautiful and talented, they'll all tell you, I achieved everything, and said, is that it? I remember once reading an interview with famous rock and roll guitarist Eric Clapton. Very famous, very talented, very rich. And he said, by the time I was like 24, I had already achieved everything anybody could want, and it was just boring. Because it's all superficial. None of it is touching the self. I think of it as like a picture. Like you take a picture of yourself, in some kind of advertisement. Like there'll be an advertisement in a magazine for a car. And there's this beautiful car in front of this beautiful house and this happy family, right? You've seen these pictures. Aren't I happy? But it's not real. It's not deep. You just look at it and say, see, I'm happy. But inside there's just anxiety, striving, hopes. There's not really peace and joy. So some people say, hey, I want something completely different. I want something internal. I want something spiritual. I want God. I want an ultimate reality. I want something eternal. There's a story in the Mahabharata. This one very pious man, I can't remember his name, starts with an M. So he was offered to go to heaven, and the chariot comes from heaven. So probably many of us, if a chariot came to take us to heaven, we would agree. We might not want to admit that in front of all the other devotees, but but he asked the chariot driver, so what's it like? Where am I going? Tell me about it before I hop on, Oh, there's beautiful gardens and ponds, and does it last forever? No. Said at a certain point, your garland fades, and then my time is up. And then you come back to earth. He said, forget it. I'll take another train. I want an eternal destination. So we go to the Supreme. Now, Srila Prabhupada mentions here, because in the Sanskrit, Arjuna is saying, Brahmana Pati. the path of Brahman, on the path, those who fall from the path of Brahman. And Srila Prabhupada is explaining that the spiritual path can be understood as aiming for Brahman realization, Paramatma realization, or Bhagavan realization. And Arjuna could be speaking about any of those paths in this particular verse. So in this particular verse, and this is an important point, which we'll get to in a few minutes, in this particular verse, Arjuna is not discriminating between these different paths. He's speaking in general about transcendence. So there are these two paths. Now Arjuna is asking a question. Suppose you start on the spiritual path, which necessitates not having your hopes and dreams on the material path. And then you don't make it. Do we know of people who didn't make it? Who knows of someone who didn't make it spiritually? You know, I think we know of many people who didn't make it spiritually. They came, they tried, they failed. A few years ago, I was meeting with one devotee, someone who's very, very dear to me, God's sister, who went through great tribulation in her life. Very great tribulation on every level, social, physical, psychological, family. Extreme. And in that extreme suffering, gave up on Krishna and became a Buddhist. And she told me, she said, Urmila, I tried to be a personalist and I failed. She said, I don't even want the Brahman, I want nothing. So some people fail, yes? Some people fail and just go out and go to the movies and get a motorcycle. Some people fail that way. Some people take up some nihilistic philosophy. Some people become atheists. I know one person who left and became, very, very anti-God. Not just an atheist, but like a impassioned atheist. So some people fail. And some people fail less dramatically. Some people just, they still come to Rath Yatra. Right? To socialize with all their old buddies. They don't even walk in the parade. They just come to the festival afterwards, and hang out with their friends. And they say Haribo every once in a while. And if you go to their house, there's alcohol and there's so many things. So they don't become virulent atheists or Buddhists, but they failed. Or even less extreme than that, Maybe they come to Rath Yatra and Janmashtami. But they're not chanting and they're not offering their food, and they've got the Bhagavatams in their house somewhere, right? Behind all their DVDs. So we all know people who failed. And maybe sometimes we worry that we're going to fail. Maybe sometimes we think we're already failing. It's just the other day talking to a friend who said, I don't think I'm going to make it in this life. I just don't feel that I'm going to make it in this life. So Arjuna is saying, suppose you fail. And then you didn't stock up all this pious activities. You didn't spend your time trying to be a pious dharmic person in the world so that you would go to heaven. You gave up so much sense enjoyment in this life, then you'll be nowhere. You don't have the stock of good karma. Sometimes we see it just on a very practical level. Somebody gives everything up, they leave the university, move into the ashram, and then they get to be 45 and decide, I think I want to get married. Right, you've seen this? right? And then the only thing they know how to do is distribute books and play mridanga. And their wife is saying, how's that going to pay the rent? And they feel, I lost my brahmachari life and I'm a failure as a grihasta. Yes? So this is Arjuna's question. And it's a very practical question. It's a very thoughtful question. It's a very real question. It's a question that, our ISKCON society is grappled with. When I joined the Hare Krishna movement, you really just gave up everything. Yeah, I left college. I gave away my car. I never thought of giving it to the temple. I don't know, I just gave it away. And had a little tiny things I brought with me. I thought, I don't even know if I'm allowed to bring shampoo and just staying in a room with 12 other ladies, sleeping on the floor with a little blanket. That was what it meant. Right? And then we saw so many people who did that. They hit 35 or 40 and went, oh, now what do? I don't want to live in the ashram anymore. So now it's like we're telling everybody, look, you better get your degree and you better get a career and don't just move into the ashram. Make sure that you're all situated materially, right? Because this is a question. It's a very real question. It's not just a question Arjuna had 5,000 years ago. It's a question we have today. And we're saying now, well, you kind of better hedge your bets, and surrender to Krishna, but make sure everything else is okay, too. Don't be too much of a materialist, but don't just give just kind of, straddle it, sort of. You haven't quite figured this out. So in our asking questions, we should ask questions that are our real concerns. Like earlier in the Bhagavad-Gita, in 434, Tadvadi Pranipatena, Pariprashnena Sevaya, one should ask questions. And Prabhupada said there that blind following and absurd inquiries are condemned. Like I think Prabhupada was in Japan when this student asked Srila Prabhupada, have you seen the demigods? And Prabhupada said, why are you asking this question? He said, if I've seen the demigods, how will it help you? And if I haven't seen the demigods, how will it hurt you? This question has no meaning. People ask these sort of questions, and you're just thinking, why are you asking this question? What benefit does it give you? So we should ask questions that are very meaningful. This was a very meaningful question. It was a question of Arjuna's own doubt, himself, that Krishna is putting forward this system. And he's like, I don't know if I'll be able to make it. And we need to look at our own life and our own real issues and our own real problems and our own real doubts and ask about that. Ask something that's genuine. Ask something where the answer will really benefit us and allow us to move forward. Something that really matters. Sometimes when I'm traveling, we do a little questionnaire. We pass out pieces of paper to everyone, and we say, write down, what is your biggest doubt? What is your biggest struggle? What is it you don't understand? To get a sense of what's actually going on in the community. And sometimes people write down questions not that they really have, but that they think will be very socially acceptable to ask. A question that will make them look good for asking the question instead of something that they really care about. Now, it's also for us as preachers and teachers of Krishna consciousness that we should have some awareness of what people's real questions are. I see that in many of our classes and seminars and preaching, we talk about things that are of very little relevance or help to the people in the audience. That you come to the class and you're like, what did that have to do with me? What can I use that for? How is it valuable to me? So we should ask questions that really matter for ourselves. And we should try to help people with what really matters for themselves. So Arjuna is giving this example. And in fact, in this question, you might say that in a way he's challenging Krishna. I mean, after all, he has said in the same section, I don't think this is a practical system of yoga. I don't think what you're presenting is very useful. And he has so many doubts about it that he says, I think I'm going to fail. This reminds me of Dhruva Maharaj when he was speaking to his guru Narada. And Narada said to him, look, forget about this whole vengeance thing. Just forget about it. You know, why care about getting on your father's lap? I mean, it's such a big deal, getting on your father's lap. Really, you know, it's not so important. And getting this kingdom, and just let it go. Just forget about it. Go home. Be peaceful. When you're older, you can do yoga. Don't worry, there's plenty of time. And Dhruva says, I can't do that. I can't follow that advice. That's also a very important question or doubt to bring up to one's authorities. You know, it's interesting because later Dhruva lamented that he didn't follow Narada's first instruction. But Narada was very proud of his disciple. And Narada was going even to the Prachetas and saying, my disciple Dhruva, at the age of 5 years, meditated and saw the Lord in only 6 months. So even though Dhruva had done the plan B, right? Narada said, do plan A. And Dhruva's like, I can't do your plan A, Guru Maharaj. All right, here's plan B. Still, he achieved success, and Narada was very proud of him. So one should also be honest like that. I was recently at a meeting between a spiritual master and disciples. And the disciples said to the Guru, Guru Maharaj, can we do such and such thing? And the spiritual master said, well, I would prefer that you didn't. I would prefer that you did something else. But if you really feel that this is what you need to do, then at least keep chanting Hare Krishna and help the mission. And later, when I talked to their guru, he said that if I had told them to do the highest thing, they probably would have snapped. They wouldn't have been able to sustain it. They wouldn't have been able to maintain it. This is nicely explained also in the Nectar of Devotion, under the heading of over-endeavoring for mundane things, which is usually how we put it. But there it's just put as over-endeavor. And Prabhupada says there that over-endeavor means that you take some vow that you can't keep. You say, okay, I'm going to chant 64 rounds and sleep only 2 hours and eat only old rice that the cows won't eat and mix salt with it. And, after a week, you're buying some cheesecake at the MVT. I remember some years ago, I heard Burjan Prabhu was saying that he had taken a vow not to criticize anyone, but that he hadn't been able to keep it. And being very proud, I thought, well, I'll do better than Burjan. And so I said, I'm going to take a vow for Kartik that I won't criticize anyone. And oh my goodness, Hare Krishna. One should not... What happened was Krishna showed me how in my mind I was being critical about 50 times a day. He's like, he started flagging it for me. You understand? Every time I had a critical thought, he'd go, bing, another one. And I'd have a bing, another one, bing, another one. And like, oops. All right, scratch that vow. So this is also important, to be honest about what you can and cannot do. To be honest. So those of us who are preaching, we should always be able to present somebody with a plan B and a plan C. I mean, Prabhupada would sometimes say to people, if you're going to eat meat, at least don't eat cows. Eat goats. You know that. Sometimes he would say that. Oh, we really want to eat meat. Okay, just eat a goat then, okay? Or wait till the cow dies naturally. Don't kill it. That's like a plan Z, you know. So, but we need to be honest with ourselves. What am I going to be capable of doing long term? Again, I was speaking with a devotee that's asked me many questions over the years, and I've given some suggestions, and he keeps asking me the same questions. And finally I said, you know, Prabhu, why don't you take one of my answers and work on that? Just one. And make even a little graph, you know, every day, what progress are you making on that? And he said, well, you told me that before, but I wanted to pick the most important thing to work on, and I didn't know what was most important. I said, look, why don't you take the easiest one? Forget about the most important. Take the easiest one, where you can actually have what we call a quick win. So to be honest like that, and say, you know, I don't think I can go to the forest and sit on a deerskin and stare at the tip of my nose and be a brahmachari and eat only roots and fruits and leaves and breathe once every 12 days. And I don't think I can do that. Can you give me something else? Which leads us to the context of this question, which is extremely important. So Arjuna said earlier in the Bhagavad-Gita that he was just going to leave the battlefield, right? Like, I'm done, Krishna. I'm going. Better to live by begging. So this is a very interesting preaching tactic that Krishna is using, and one that we can use with others and with ourselves. If somebody suggests something that we know is not going to work, because, see, sometimes it's not the teacher who's prescribing something that's too high, and where the student has to say, that's too high. Sometimes we are setting something too high for ourselves, or inappropriate for ourselves. When we're doing that, it's based on what, usually? Ego and, well, I'm going to immediately, pride. I'm going to, you know, live like Raghunath Das Goswami tomorrow. Now, an interesting tactic, instead of just saying, you can't do that, you prideful, egoistic fool, we could say, oh, you know, that's a good idea. Look, this is how you do it. So that's what Krishna's doing here. He's saying, okay, you don't want to fight this war, because Arjuna said just a little while ago, I'm confused by your equivocal instructions. Why are you telling me to give up all abominable activities and do bhakti-yoga, and then you're also telling me to fight, right? So Krishna's like, you know, okay. You don't want to fight. You don't want to go that route. You just want to meditate and beg. Okay, fine. No problem. Here's the system. Here it is. There you go. Gives you what you want. Does Krishna ever do that with us? We want something. We're like, I want this, I want this. He's like, here you go. And then we go, yeah. So that's what's happening here. Krishna is saying to Arjuna, here you go. Here's your dana yoga. Just what you said you wanted. And Arjuna is saying, Chanchala himana Krishna, I don't think I can do this, Krishna. And I'm going to fail. And then I'm going to fail, and then I won't achieve transcendence, and I won't win the battle either, and I'll be nothing. So what Krishna's done here as the expert psychologist and teacher is had Arjuna come to that conclusion himself. By letting Arjuna picture, all right, here's your future. That's where you want to go. This is what it's going to look like. And that it's a very interesting way to help somebody sometimes. when we see they're going down the wrong path, but they're really determined about it. I can do it, I know. Okay, yeah, a great idea. Okay, you could do this and this and this. Okay, it's going to be 4 years of undergrad, and then another 4 years of medical school, another 2 years of internship where you're working 120 hours a week, and then another 2 years of residency, and then by that time you're 35. And then they may go, oh. So that's what Arjuna's doing here. And it's extremely important that Prabhupada's pointing out in the purport about Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. At the end of the purport, he says, bhakti-yoga is the direct process. First of all, in bhakti-yoga, there's far less chance of failure because what you're doing is easier and simpler. And Kevalananda Kanda, it's blissful even for the beginner. It's blissful, has or at least blissful aspects even in the Anartha-nivritti stage, the most difficult stage of bhakti. And Prabhupada says it's a hard struggle with determination. But even then, you still go to the kirtan and eat MBT cheesecake, right? And get to see the beautiful deities and read wonderful philosophy. So there's still so much happiness, even in that most difficult stage, where you're neither really a fool nor a transcendentalist. Right? So in this stage of bhakti, as Krishna is going to explain, there's no failure. Swalpa, even a little bit of bhakti, you always get to keep. First of all, you're not as likely to fall from bhakti. Second of all, it's not as difficult of a process. And third of all, even if you do fail in bhakti, you get to keep whatever you've done. You don't become lost. And in bhakti, you don't have to give up having a family and having a career and working in the world. You don't have to give that up. It's not that to perform bhakti, you have to give away your car and not have any shampoo and just sleep on the floor in an ashram. The whole world can practice bhakti. You can practice bhakti as a university professor and as a prime minister and as a soldier and as a business person and as an artisan and everything. So it's not necessary in bhakti to make this sort of absolute choice where you've walked away from everything in the world. And therefore, this question doesn't really arise if one is taking up bhakti. This question actually arises more in the other systems of yoga, which Krishna is explaining because Arjuna was pushing for that. He was pushing in that direction. So although sometimes we may have this kind of doubt ourselves, we really don't need to in bhakti. Everything we do in bhakti is permanent, even if we don't achieve full success in this life. When we should try for full success in this life, we should be serious about full success in this life, not be lazy, not be complacent, but at the same time be honest about our capabilities and know that everything we do is eternal. And we keep on going. And we can have a house and a car and a family and a job in bhakti and be a pure devotee. The only thing we have to sacrifice on the path of materialism is ahankara. That's all. It's just ahankara vimudha makartaham iti manyate. That's the only thing we have to give up. This idea that I'm the enjoyer, I'm the controller, ishwaraham aham bhogi, that we have to give up. That there's no compromise. But that there's no pleasure in that at all. That's only pain in that. The only thing you have to give up on the path of bhakti is pain. I didn't get to advance in pain. Well, no, you didn't. I lost out on suffering in the world. That's the only risk you're taking. I didn't get to be in some illusion that I was the master of the planet. Okay. So this is ultimately, I said I wasn't going to give you the answer, but I did. Bad. Sorry about that. Hope I didn't steal the thunder from the next speakers. So we've looked here at the two paths, at asking important questions, at preaching to people, teaching people in ways that are important to them, being honest about what we can and cannot do, about when people are insisting that they can do something that they can't, that one way you can deal with that is to agree with them. Oh yeah, sure, you can do this. And show them what it'll look like so they'll understand it for themselves. And finally we looked at that Arjuna's question is relevant in the other kinds of yoga, but isn't really relevant in bhakti. So we have a little bit of time for questions, comments, additions, subtractions. As I say, I have one devotee here brought some copies of my new book, if you're interested, which is, it's based on Judd Bhart's metaphors of the forest of enjoyment and Mahaprabhu's instructions to Sanatana Goswami in Madhya 19 and 20 and Raghunath Das Goswami's Manashiksha, all those metaphors, and it's a novel of somebody going actually from materialistic life to Krishna Prema. It's a book that's written in language for the public, so you can give it to non-devotee friends and family, but it also takes you to Krishna Prema in Vrindavan, so it's not just a you not this body kind of book. So yes. Oh, we have a microphone for the questions.
Krishna, thank you for this wonderful class. In your class, you mentioned that the grihastha who has some knowledge of Sankirtan and Vedanga, he's a failure.
Well, we often see like that. I didn't say they are. I say we see like that. That we may think, oh, that's all he knows how to do. How's he going to make a living?
I'm a Sankirtan devotee, and I was a lawyer before. So, Sankirtan devotee is very nice. Your employer is Krishna. And,
so you're going to make a plug for being a Grahasta Sankirtan devotee?
What I'm suggesting is everyone should try and do some books. Not only on the street, but door to door, your neighbor, your friends, or whatever. Especially next month coming up is Srila Prabhupada's book distribution month. So if you can give Srila Prabhupada's books, Srila Prabhupada will preach for you, and he'll bring the lost souls back to his own street.
Very nice. At least on the weekends. And the evenings and
You
sometime.
do in the evening as well, if you can. Because it's marathon, so you take that extra time that you want to do. We'll be doing 7 days a week. You just do as many more days as you can as well.
Thank you.
Krishna.
Yes.
Thank you for class. How do you know in preaching whether we should use this method as painting a picture versus going directly against the person's statements?
Oh, what a nice question. Well, Krishna first tried to go against it. Didn't he? So first he was just telling Arjuna, look, don't worry about this honor and dishonor, just fight for the sake of fighting. Yagyartat karmano natra, right? Just do everything for the sake of Vishnu. He kept trying to go that way. And Arjuna was like, I don't get it. You're just confusing me. I don't know how to be both in transcendence and fight. I can't figure it out. So what I usually do is I usually try first the direct approach because I'm lazy. The direct approach is fast if it works, right? So if you just say to someone, oh, that's a stupid idea. And if they go, yeah, you're right. Done. Your whole preaching is over in 10 seconds. So, as I say, being lazy, I usually go for the direct cut first. But if you try that and you get resistance, then you need to back up and think, okay, maybe I should use another strategy. So it's, as a teacher, as a preacher, if you try something and you get resistance, don't try to force your way through the resistance. Because the austerities of speech are to be beneficial, to actually benefit people, and one of the offenses is to preach above somebody's level of understanding. So, you want to be very careful that you don't try to force things through people. But, as I say, I'm lazy, so I always try the direct first. At least try, at least a little bit. At least a little, kind of test it a little bit. And see how the person responds. And If they respond well, then okay, keep going. And if I get a pushback, then back off and try something else.
I just find, thank you for the cross, I just find sometimes that
Microphone, can the microphone wander over here?
for myself, sometimes I find that I need to back up. I find the resistance in myself.
Ah, very wise. Yes.
And in order to preserve the love of Krishna,
Yes.
I sometimes need to back up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I was talking about where Prabhupada said over endeavor is where you take a vow you can't meet. It's pride. Where we think we can do something and we try and then we see, I can't do that. I need to drop back to a level that I can sustain. It's far better to do something that you can sustain over the long haul than do something, glorious and wonderful and burn yourself out. So yeah, we have to do that too. I mean, we want to try to push ourselves forward, but as Bhakti-Vinod says in Bhakti-Yoga, you fall down either going too fast or too slow. So don't be so easy on yourself that you're not making any progress, and don't be so hard on yourself that you just burn yourself out. And this is something that we consult with our guru, we consult with our senior devotees, and we also have to be a little introspective. I was recently in a particularly intense travel and preaching. I mean, it was like really intense, where I was changing locations every 3 days. It was kind of nuts. And and doing programs where there was a lot of travel, it was really, really intense. And at one point, I came back after a program to where I was staying, and this one woman says to me, "Urmila, is there any service I can do for you?" I said, "Yeah, just let me be by myself for a while." She's like, "No, I want to serve you." I said, "Then please just let me be by myself for a while." "But is there any service?" Yes, just let me be by myself for a while. So we also have to understand what are our, as Prabhupada said, the highest principle is to save others, and higher than that is to save yourself. So that's got to be there. You want to be able to chant good quality japa, and you want to be able to have time for deep deity worship and deep study. And again, it's a question of taking care of yourself over the long haul, because you can't be any good to anybody else if you're falling apart. And really, much better to do something where you can make steady progress and you can maintain than to say, But you can always try something. Sometimes we also get surprised by what we can do. You don't want to be covered by fear. So both of those, be willing to take some risks, and at the same time, don't be foolish. Does that make sense? If you want to, specifics, you have to look at your own life and with your own authorities. Yes.
Actually, we don't have choice. Many people will think spiritual life is very difficult, and then again go back to material life. Spiritual life is difficult, material life is impossible. And again,
that sounds like a little motto you have over your refrigerator or something.
And also, Arjuna actually, after giving 5 reasons, deciding not to fight, and finally he surrendered to Karpanya dosha.
Ah.
And then Arjuna is having all these questions, but then Krishna is telling in the 18th chapter that if you don't listen to me, act according to your false ego, you will be lost.
Yes. Yes.
So like that, however, what choice do we have other than doing spiritual life? Material life is
Useless.
useless.
Better to do spiritual life and risk failure and whatever.
All zeros.
All zeros.
100
Absolutely,
zeros,
completely zeros.
Without one.
Completely zeros. But the spiritual life, the only thing that's difficult about spiritual life, is our reluctance to face our anarthas and our false ego. Spiritual life otherwise is not actually difficult at all. The spiritual path is a very, very easy path. What is difficult about it is our own resistance to the path. It's not the path that's difficult, it's our resisting the path that's difficult. But the path itself is not difficult. Bhakti yoga is not a difficult path. Jnana yoga is a difficult path, frankly.
That's like
For most people in Kali Yuga, including me, Jnana yoga is a difficult path, technically. Bhakti is not a difficult path. But when we resist it, when we're in bhakti, Hare Krishna, don't purify me today. Hare Krishna, you can purify me, but very, very slowly and gently, please. Hare Krishna. That, we're pushing back. And Prabhupada said, until Nishta, it's a hard struggle with determination. Why? Because we're working through the anarthas. And we're holding on to the anartha. We're going, like, please, Krishna, take this away from me. Please, take it away. So that's, and Krishna's kind of like, so that's the difficulty in bhakti. But bhakti itself is not difficult. And learning how to go through that anartha nivritti. If one learns how to go through that anartha nivritti, then also that is not difficult. But that is, so I disagree that spiritual life is difficult. I disagree with that. And as far as material life is impossible, it's impossible to gain success in material life. There's no success. It's all sand. It's all soap bubbles. It's all a dream. But as far as saying it's impossible, in the Kali Yuga, being a materialist is the path of least resistance. So I think being a materialist is easy in that sense. Unless you have devotee parents, it's what your parents expect you to do. It's what society expects you to do. Society is set up to facilitating you doing that. So if you want to be a materialist, it's all kind of there. And you can sort of sleep through the whole thing. And you just kind of go to your job and make some money and pay your mortgage and fight with your spouse and watch television and drink your beer and go to sleep. And it's so in that sense, I think to be a materialist in Kali Yuga is not a very difficult thing to do. I think it's sort of the well-worn path. But if you're going to talk about being happy being a materialist, that's impossible.
Krishna is telling Devi Hesha Guna Maya.
Yeah, but then he's taught. But okay, so you're trying to say spiritual life is difficult. Do you want to believe that spiritual life is difficult? Do you want to believe that spiritual life is difficult? Is that your desire to believe that? So what does Krishna say after Durachaya? What is the next thing he says? So don't forget that half of the verse. How long does Prabhupada said it can take us to surrender to Krishna? 1 second. So who's making it difficult? Thank you. Me too. I'm not criticizing you. Criticizing myself. Yes. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I have a question. I know there's two paths, the spiritual path and the material path.
Yes.
But is there a real duality between material life and the spiritual life? Because sometimes I've heard this. I've heard we have to have some balance between material life, spiritual life. In the beginning of the class, you said that or you're spiritual or you're material. So is there a real duality in this spiritual life and material life? Because I've heard Bhagavad-Gita.
This is a happy question for me. You ready?
Yes.
Are those really heavy around your neck? Are they really heavy?
No.
No? No. Nice. Sometimes you see these babas at Radhakund, with these big. Prabhupada said material life means when someone is happy, I am unhappy. And when someone is unhappy, I am happy. And spiritual life means I am happy at others' happiness and sad at others' sadness. He said, that's the difference. Or you can say the difference between material and spiritual life is in material life, I think I am the enjoyer, and spiritual life, I think I'm a servant. Or you could say material life is I think I'm this body and this mind, sarvapati vinirmuktam, I have all these upadis. Spiritual life means jivarasvarapaya krishnera nityadasha. 20th chapter, Krishna book, Prabhupada says, the materialists see the world as very aggressive, the spiritualists see everything as happy. So, the path of material life and spiritual life does not mean in bhakti yoga. It does mean in dhyana yoga, but not in bhakti yoga. It does not mean whether you have a house, whether you have a job, whether you have money, whether you have a career. That's not what material and spiritual means in bhakti yoga. In dhyana yoga, which is what this chapter is about, it's very important to take Arjuna's question in the context of this chapter, where Krishna is saying, okay, fine, don't fight, Arjuna, good. Forget it. Don't be a kshatriya. Don't be a husband. How many wives did Arjuna have? 4. Don't be a kshatriya. Don't be a husband. Don't be a father. Don't run the government. Don't do any of that stuff. Go to the forest, look at the tip of your nose, chant Om, sit on a deerskin, eat roots, be a brahmachari. And Arjuna get, I don't think I'm going to make it. So in dhyana yoga, yes. In dhyana yoga, you're not doing dhyana yoga as a Wall Street banker, going to a yoga session in the morning and trying to awaken your kundalini. It's a farce. In dhyana yoga, yes, you have to give up everything. Forget about family, forget about career, forget about bank balance. You have to wear a deerskin. Forget about your cheesecake. And beautiful kirtans, and forget that. It's all just all day. So in dhyana yoga, there is this real split in how you live externally. And now in karma yoga there isn't. In Jnana yoga somewhat, and certainly in bhakti there is not. In bhakti there isn't this kind of thing. You can be in bhakti in any of the ashrams, in any of the varnas. Yes? So if people are talking about balancing material and spiritual life, frankly, I don't know what they're talking about in bhakti yoga. Because in bhakti yoga, you're not supposed to have a material life at all. Your whole life is supposed to be spiritualized. And I understand what they kind of mean is, how do I, drive my kids to soccer practice and keep up on my profession and get my rounds done and read Prabhupada's books. They're talking about kind of like time and prioritizing management when they ask that question. Like I had a devotee who was an eye doctor who said, how do I keep up on the research in my field and read Prabhupada's books? I only have so much reading time every day. So they're asking kind of a practical time management prioritizing question when they're asking that question. But we're supposed to see, if we're grihastas, we're supposed to see my family as Krishna's servants. My home is a temple. Bhaktivinoda said, I take the Charanamrita, my home turns into Vaikuntha. We're supposed to see Krishna everywhere, and the light in all luminous objects, and the heat and fire, and our ability and our intelligence, and the water and everything. We're supposed to see Krishna everywhere, that we don't need to go in the forest and just stare at the tip of our nose and give up our home and our car and our career. And that's what Krishna comes to in the Bhagavad-Gita. Mam anusram yujacha. Think of me and fight. Be it, or even at the end of this chapter, yoginam api sarvesham magatena antaratmana shraddhavam bhajati yamam samayukta tamamataha. So we bhakti yogis should not be delineating material and spiritual life by those sort of things. By, are you, a sannyasi or are you a grahasta? That's not the way that we should be understanding the difference between matter and spirit. In fact, I've just read a purport in the 4th canto where Prabhupada was saying very clearly that ultimately everything is spiritual. There is nothing material at all. And the 14th chapter of Krishna book, Prabhupada says, Maya exists only within the mind. So material is a way of seeing reality. It's a distorted way of understanding our own identity. It's a distorted way of understanding matter, objects. It's a distorted way of understanding other living beings. We're perceiving things wrongly. And no, you can't both perceive things rightly and wrongly. And nor do you want to balance that. You want to only perceive things rightly. But we do want to have some balance, as it says in the Ishopanishad, between knowing the temporary and the eternal, between knowing the creation of the material world and the spiritual pastimes. We do want that. The Bhagavad-Gita has whole sections on the modes of material nature, how the material nature works, and whole sections on the transcendence. Bhagavatam, whole sections on the universal form, varnashram, right? And then whole sections on Krishna's eternal Leela in the spiritual world. So in that sense, but we see all of that as Leela, We see the creation of the world as Leela Lakya Karanarnava Jalay Bhajatisma Yogam Nidram Anantajagadanda Saramakupa Adhara Shakti Mavalambya Paramasmurtim. We see everything as Krishna. So it may look like, okay, I'm understanding something of the world and I'm understanding something of Goloka, but it's all Krishna. Is that okay? That was such a wonderful question. Did I answer it, though? It was a great question. I'm wondering if I gave at least a passable answer.
Thank you so much.
Yes, Prabhu.
I think maybe part of my question already answered it in my heart, so I want to ask this question.
Okay.
There are days when you are really enjoying the spiritual life.
Huh.
You're very happy and you are able to perform so many spiritual activities. And one fine day or in the course of time, something changes. And all of a sudden you are struggling and you are just thinking, how do I've come into this situation? What has changed? I don't know where all the association. I'm struggling so much. And I just want to ask, what is it that changes? Because you're still trying to be a devotee and you struggle so much. The same thing you were riding high on has been equal when you're tough. So
I'm a teacher, so I guess I see things in terms of, one of my students told me once, Mother Urmila used too many teaching analogies, but I don't know what else to do. So, if you're a good teacher, you're not giving people lessons in new things, hard things constantly. It's too much. But every once in a while, you may have to give them something that's really tough. So, Krishna knows what a lot of our anarthas just kind of go away very easily in the course of bhakti without very much effort on our part at all. We just feel so much attracted to Krishna that we naturally, parajastvam nivartate, we just naturally lose our taste for lower things. But there are certain anarthas that, in each one of us it's different, that are very deep-rooted, that we're very attached to, that we really don't want to face, and sometimes we have to work on those. Sometimes they have to be surfaced and we have to work on those, and we have to work on those very conscientiously and very deliberately. Bhaktivinoda Thakur talks about the demons as being symbolic of different anarthas, and he says most of them are killed by Krishna automatically, but Pralambasura and Dhenukasura, which are killed by Balaram, representing the modes of passion and ignorance, must be destroyed by the devotees themselves by surrendering to Guru. This is a secret of Raj Bhakti. So certain anarthas they go away so easily and so effortlessly that we hardly even notice. We're like, oh wow, I'm just not interested in that anymore. Wow, I haven't been interested in that for a year now, and I never even noticed it. And it just, that was easy. I just got absorbed in service, and it was gone. But other things are not like that. And I say it's different for each one of us. And at a certain point, Krishna says, hey, we got to work on this. And he brings something up, and you look at it, and you go, what is that? And he says, you got to work on this. And often those things come disguised as devotion. I was just hearing a lecture by Bhakti-Yoga Swami the other day out of Govardhan, and he was talking about self-deception in an art and nivriti, which is a lot of what Raghunath Das Goswami talks about in the donkey urine bath, where we think that we're getting clean, but actually we're bathing in donkey urine. So it's, these are some of the metaphors I wove into this book. But those things have to be revealed to us, and it tends to be painful. There tends to be some pain involved. Now, if you deal with that properly, the pain doesn't last very long, and it becomes what Rupa Goswami describes as a ghastly rasa. It becomes actually a rasa. If you're willing to look at the stuff in deep humility, mixed with devotion, not a self-absorbed, self-pitying mode of ignorance kind of thing. And I'm so fallen. But this thing where, as part of your love for Krishna, you become aware of how deeply fallen you are, then it's actually a rasa, and it's very sweet. And although it's intense, it's not suffering. So one can deal with those times in that way, which is a whole other class. Or two. I hope that was just a little sutra, but Anybody else? We can have maybe one more and then we should end. Are you going to tell me again to go out and do books?
You shot that down by
Did I tried not to?
You shot it down by saying, don't work too hard, don't worry too much about it.
Did I?
But, that's what it sounded. But just a quick thing. You're suggesting a nice, easy pace of life.
Did I?
Can you?
That was half of what I said. Wait a minute. I also said don't be lazy.
No.
You gotta, no, wait a minute. You can't take half the hen.
And what I heard.
Well, that was one half, yeah, but what about you gotta take the other half? Bhakti-Vinod said don't go too fast and don't go too slow. You're just taking the don't go too fast part.
Here's my question.
Okay, but don't go too slow either. I'll hear you out.
Are you ready?
I don't know. See, do you think devotional service is difficult and painful? Look, it's so much fun. Yes, Prabhu.
Can we make any tangible advancement in spiritual life if you sit in your comfort zone?
No. I told you only took half the hit. No. You have to push yourself forward, but don't break yourself. Yes, push yourself out of your comfort zone. Go forward, but don't break yourself. Don't damage yourself. Don't go too fast and don't go too slow. We have some devotees who need to be told over and over again, don't go too fast, and other devotees who need to be told over and over again, don't go too slow. Don't go too fast, don't go too slow. Like a car on the highway. You want to keep moving. By the way, sometimes you can stop at a rest area. That's okay. It is. It's okay. You know, that's also okay. Like Prabhupada said, the Sankirtan devotees should every year go to Mayapur for Gaur Purnima and just dance. You can sometimes just dance. But don't go too slowly. If you go too slowly, what happens is you lose a taste. If you're not challenging, like Prabhupada said, the art of management is to always give people fresh challenges that they can achieve. If you're not pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and going for fresh challenges, you kind of dry up. Even on a material level, that's kind of, look at that. I use the word material like that. But even in terms of materialists, like my thesis was on job satisfaction and motivation. If you're not making some progression in your career, you get bored. If you feel that, I've already done everything there is to do, I can't go any further. So spiritual life is dynamic. Even when you're a pure devotee, it's still dynamic. But don't push yourself so far that you break. Don't take vows you can't keep, Prabhupada said. I was just reading that again today. I was looking up something and I ran into it again. So it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. You want to be able to stay long term and keep going. What do you want to be able to stay long term and do? Sit? No, it's a movement. You want to be able to keep going forward long term. So to be able to keep going forward long term, you have to do it in a way that's sustainable for you. The Bhakti-yoga says you'll fall if you go either too fast or too slow. Just like on the highway. You get in an accident if you're going too fast, you'll get in an accident if you're going too slowly. And what that pace is not going to be the same every day or every year. There's going to be some times at your life that you can go really fast in spiritual life, and other times you've got to, just like Prabhupada said, if your mind's very disturbed, stop everything, just sit down and chant. And he gave an analogy that's given in all meditation systems, interestingly, even like by the Buddhists, and where they said if the water's muddy, you have to let it settle so you can see clearly. So Prabhupada said if you're very disturbed, stop everything, just sit down and chant. So it depends. Don't be lazy, don't stay in your comfort zone. Don't just say, in 10,000 years I'll become a pure devotee. And don't start only sleeping 1 hour a day and get sick. You understand? One has to be a little intelligent. Or these people who try to force themselves to be renunciates, and then at 45, oh my God, I got to get married. You should have married at 25. And then by now your kids would be grown up and you could become renounced. You understand? So to be sane and stable. And this is a lot of what's happening right now in this verse. A lot of what's happening where Arjuna is proposing to Krishna to do something that, for the purposes of Bhagavad-Gita, Arjuna is not capable of. Of course Arjuna is capable of it because he's a pure devotee. But for the purposes of Bhagavad-Gita, Arjuna is proposing something he's not capable of. And so Krishna is saying, fine, do it. And Arjuna looks at it and goes, I'm not capable of doing that. Does that make sense to you? Do you follow? Now, I don't think Krishna wanted Arjuna in a comfort zone. But being able to know what I can do and what I can't do. And consulting with others and that's why we have guru, that's why we have senior devotees. And we can say, hey, do I need to push myself harder? Or am I doing it just right? Or am I not pushing hard enough? And get feedback from them. All right? Is that okay? Did I get the whole thing now? But. A small thing. Okay, sure. Sure. And then we have to stop.
I really appreciate the balance that Krishna certainly is not allowing Arjuna to sit on the back, in the battlefield. He wants him to fight.
Yes, indeed.
And win the whole kingdom. He's really pushing him well beyond his comfort level. And even Srila Prabhupada came.
Yeah, but look at this, Prabhu, right here in this chapter. Is Krishna telling Arjuna in chapter 6 to fight?
No, but that's because he
No.
wants him to do psychology is using.
Yes,
His real aim is to actually push him further.
exactly. But he's doing it by saying, sure, fine, look at what this one looks like.
So he's suggesting to a passionate Kshatriya to sit down and do something that a Brahmana might do.
Exactly.
It's not going to be possible.
Because that's what Arjuna is saying he wants to do. So yeah, it wouldn't be possible, exactly. It would break him. He would fail. I mean, not really, because he's Arjuna, but you can understand for the sake. Yeah. And Arjuna's seeing that and he's saying, I would fail.
It's just the living entity, the soul. We're made up in such a way that we don't just sit in our comfort zone. Unless someone comes along the spiritual teacher and says, wait, hang on.
Absolutely.
You get from here to here.
Absolutely.
It's a long way. Don't sit.
Absolutely.
You know, for me, I'm just talking myself. I have had 8,400,000 species of life to sit at a coffee table along the motorway of life.
As a fly, you were sitting on the coffee table.
So what I'm saying to you, I don't need to sit anymore. I need to push it.
Absolutely, absolutely. May you be successful. Thank you very much, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.